Instead of using chained else if statements, you can use a switch statement. A switch statement tests a value and can have many case statements which define various possible values. So let me show you how that works. Here we're going to write a switch statement which tests val and sets the answer to the following conditions. If we pass in 1, the answer should be alpha. If we pass in 2, the answer should be beta, and so on. So let me show you how that works. We'll just type in the word switch, that's a keyword here, and we're testing the val that's passed into this function. So it starts off kind of like an if statement, and right now, so we're going to compare the val to the different cases that we have. So we'll have case, and the first number is going to be 1. So here we're saying if the case of val is 1, if val equals 1, and it's using the strict equality operator, so it's like the equals equals equals, it's going to make sure that the type of the variable are the same, so a string 1 and a number 1 will not be equal. But if the case is 1, then we're going to set answer to equal alpha. We'll just do it like this, alpha. And then we are going to break. Break means that we're at the end of that case statement. And once you break it, it just goes to the end of the switch statement. It doesn't evaluate anything else in the switch statement. So we're also going to have case 2. And one thing I forgot, that we're just going to indent that so it's easier to see the different cases. And case 2, the answer is going to set equal to beta. And then we always need the break statement. If you don't have a break statement, it will just run through to the next case statement automatically. So if the case was 1 and you did not have a break here, first it would set the answer to alpha, and then it would set the answer to beta. It would just skip over right to the next case statement. But since the break is here, it's going to go out of the switch statement completely. So it would go start running the code after this last curly bracket. So now we're going to do case 3. We'll just do some copying and pasting here. And we're going to have 4 cases, so I'll just do the rest of the pasting here. So we'll have 3 and 4, alpha, beta, and then we have gamma and delta. And we know that the switch statement is over because we have this final curly bracket, and then we're just going to return answer. So let's do some tests. To really test this, we're going to have to add a console.log here to log what it's going to be. And I'll run this. Oh, alpha, good. Now 2 should be beta. 3 should be gamma. Good. And we'll just assume 4 is correct. So we're done. Now I'll talk to you about the default option in a switch statement. The default option is kind of like else in an if-else statement. So here's a switch statement that's very similar to the one we already saw. And it's inside this function where we pass in a value into the function, and we're going to check if the value equals A. If it equals A, the answer is going to be set to apple. B, answer is set to bird. C, cat. So in this example, we can see that we passed in here, we passed in the A, and it returned apple because that was one of the options. But what if we pass in something else? If I pass in the number 2 here, it's going to return an empty string. That's because the answer is set to an empty string, and we never override the answer here, so it just returns that empty string. What if we want to return something anytime A, B, or C is not passed through? So for anything else that's passed into the function, we're going to do default. This is like the else statement. So the default, we're going to do answer equals stuff. And again, we're going to have the break. So now, whenever we pass in something that's not A, B, or C, it's going to return stuff. So we can pass in 5, it's going to return stuff. But if I go back to passing in C, one of the things we have a case for, it will return cat. And that's the switch statement. Sometimes you want a switch statement where multiple inputs give the same output. Well, that's easy enough by omitting the break statement. Let me show you how that works. So let's get a switch statement here, and we're going to have val, that's what's passed into the function. And in this case, we want the case of 1, 2, and 3 all to return the answer of low. So I can do it like this. Case 1, and I can go straight into case 2. And then I can go straight into case 3. And since I don't have any break statement between each cases, it will just keep going to the next one automatically. And now I'm going to say that the answer is going to be set to equal low. And here is where I put the break statement. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with cases 4 through 6. And actually, I'm just going to do some copying and pasting. I'm going to copy all this. And now we're going to paste. That's 4, 5, 6. We're going to do the same thing with 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to do copy and paste again, and then I'm just going to update the code. So this is going to be 4, 5, 6. We'll have 7, 8, 9. And we're going to have mid and high. So if the case is 1, 2, or 3, like for instance, if it's 1, it's going to pass through 2 and 3 to get low, and then it's going to break out. If it's 4, 5, or 6, it's going to pass through to get to mid, and then it's going to break out. 7, 8, 9, it's going to pass through to high and break out. So let's test this out and see. Since we're passing in the number 1 here, it's going to be low. But if we pass in 5, we should get mid. And if it's 7, 8, or 9, we should get high. Sometimes a switch statement can be easier to write and easier to understand than a chain of if-else statements. So we're going to change this chain of else-if statements to become a switch statement. So let's do that right now. So we're going to start with the switch keyword, and we're going to be evaluating the value with open curly bracket, and we'll have to make sure to have an in curly bracket at the end. So for case Bob, we're going to set the answer to Marley, and then we need to have a break in here. For case 42, we're going to set the answer to the answer. For case 1, we'll set the answer to there is no number 1. Oh, we need a break up here. For case 99, the answer is missed by this much. And then we need a break. Now we have for case 7, well, 7, 8, 9, and break. And now we just changed that chain of else if statements into a switch statement.